Welcome, folks. This is Virtually Sunday, a presentation of Whatsoever You Do Incorporated. I'm Norbertine Father Tim Shilcox, coming to you from up in Florence County, Morgan Lake, on a rainy, cool summer afternoon with reflections for the scriptures that the church assigns for the 16th Sunday in Ordinary Time. That's July 20th, 2025. And it's Cycle C, so we're drawing from Luke's Gospel. Not too long ago, I was out on the road filling in a parish in the diocese for the weekend masses, staying overnight, which is sort of a treat to get out of the abbey a little bit and a change of scenery. And a family had invited me for supper, so I kept the vigil mass moving along. The homily wasn't too long, and made it over to their home for supper. And they had a wonderful meal prepared. I'd known one of their children and got to know the rest of the family pretty well over the years, and was grateful to be there. So we gathered around the table and had a little bit to drink and some things to nibble on, and then supper was ready. And I was drawn into a beautiful family custom of meal prayer. The husband and father led the traditional, "Bless us, O Lord," and these gifts, and then articulated what he was thankful for, and then passed it off to his son, who articulated what he was thankful for, and ended by passing it off to me. "Okay, Father Tim, it's your turn." And so I was grateful to be invited into the sanctuary of their home, a place where faith and family and prayer are all beautifully evident. And so I did my part and passed it on to the next person. What I realized is that as they went around the circle, there were 8 of us all together, that 5 of the people articulated that among the things they were thankful for that evening was that Father Tim is here with us. And it was very touching to me and very humbling. In some ways sort of different. At home, but it's true in your home too, that we sort of take each other for granted to show up at the table at night. Maybe on our birthdays, we get a little bit of a deal made. But to just hear, I'm thankful, God, that Father Tim is with us tonight. It was a beautiful reminder that's how that presence nourishes us, just being with people. We sat down to supper, and it was a wonderful conversation, and the food was great. It was a group effort, so wonderful salads and nice hors d'oeuvres and excellent steaks and very fine conversation. And then the next morning for the morning mass, the whole family was at the 8 o'clock. And I realized how much I appreciated, especially having been around their family table in the sanctuary of their home, that we could celebrate the Lord's Supper together as well, to come around his table and to be united. The scriptures speak of hospitality today, and when we hear hospitality, we think a lot of food and drink and comfort and the right recipes and the right dishes and fancy schmancy and all that kind of stuff. But that's not the hospitality that Jesus, especially in the gospel passage about Martha and Mary at Bethany, it's not the kind of hospitality he's hoping we reflect. It's a business of being present to each other, of just simply being there with each other, eager to listen to each other carefully and reverently and joyfully too, because it's a privilege. Also eager to share our story, ourselves, what's going on with us, our faith, our prayers, what we're thankful for, what we're needing from God. In the first reading, Abraham greets the 3 traveling men. He's so glad to see them. He's so glad to see them. Please do us the favor of not passing by. Stay with us. Rest yourselves a little bit. We'll prepare a bite to eat for you. Then he goes out and slaughters a steer and has Sarah prepare a feast, really. And all because Abraham is so eager for their company, eager to know them, to get to understand them, to tell them his story. An old couple, no children, where does their family line go? And you hear it, the story ends, "We shall return this time next year, and surely your wife Sarah will have born a son." The reward simply of presence. They don't say, "Thanks for the beef, thanks for the bread, thanks for the fine dessert or the great wine. Thanks for the company. Thanks for the social connection and interaction. Thanks for the human and divine, heart to heart, soul to soul, that's able to happen when people gather around a table. In the gospel passage from St. Luke, Jesus is close friends to Martha and Mary and Lazarus. Bethany is maybe, about 7 miles from Jerusalem. It's close by. He's been there a lot. He feels comfortable, can sort of let his hair down, kick his sandals off, and be himself. And he visits, and Mary's sitting at his feet. What does he have to say? What questions does she have to ask? Just being with him, she senses deep, deep, deep inside, this is someone special. This is my friend. This is also my Lord and Savior. Maybe she couldn't articulate it. This is God's Son. This is one we've been waiting for. And she will not be pried away from attentiveness to Jesus. And she delights in it, and so does Jesus. Meanwhile, Martha's in the kitchen, banging around with the pots and pans, getting the food ready. Probably a wonderful feast, probably special recipes, fine dishes, candles, nice wine, hopefully seconds on the desserts, if Jesus wants a second on the dessert. And she's also more than a little ticked off. So she comes out and complains. She yields to self-pity, that kind of swamp that destroys all spiritual vision. Jesus doesn't bother you. She's left me to do all the work, all the hospitality myself. Tell her to help me out. And Martha gets an answer she doesn't expect. No, Martha, you worry about so many things. The one most necessary thing, Mary's chosen it, to sit at my feet, to keep me company, to be present to me, and let me be present to her. She will not be deprived of it. Now we can bet that when Martha rang the dinner bell, after going back into the kitchen, probably confused, maybe a little bit mad, when she rang the dinner bell, Jesus put his feet under the table and enjoyed a wonderful meal. It wasn't that all of that wasn't important, the food, the drink, and the care and the friendship it represents, but it's not the most important thing. The best food and drink, the best nourishment for our souls, you know this. Hopefully spouses, you know this. Hopefully any of us with dear friendships know this. It's simply the companion, the ones who share the same bread. It's the companionship of a friend, of another fellow traveler, another human being, man or woman, younger or older, blood-related or related in other ways, perhaps by faith, for those of us who follow the Lord. This nourishes our spirit. This gives us life and direction. This heals and forgives. And even more than that, this reveals the presence of God. And that's where the second passage from today's readings comes in, the letter to the Colossians. Let me read it to you. God has willed to make known to them, to us, the glory beyond all price, which is this mystery that I bring to the Gentiles. And the mystery, it is the mystery of Christ in you. The mystery of Christ in you and me and us. That we love the Jesus we see in each other, and we're loved by the Jesus we experience in one another. And we bring Jesus to other people by our manner of being, our careful listening, our having the time to just be with each other and maybe get up the courage to say, I love you, or I'll miss you, I'm so grateful for you. I've noticed it at the Abbey in recent years, living back there in the last while. At the end of a table conversation with tables of 5 or 6, where the conversation has been particularly good, and it's time to head in and do the dishes, get things cleared off, and get on to the rest of the evening, I notice an increasing number of guys, myself included gladly, who say at the end of the meal, besides a prayer, thanks for the good table, guys. Thanks for the good conversation. This was a good connection tonight. Of course, the food was fine, but the human nourishment was even more. Or maybe do you remember Fiddler on the Roof back in the 70s? Tevye, married 25 years, asks his wife, do you love me? And she looks at him sort of like Martha. For 25 years, I've washed your clothes, I've cooked your meals, I've shared your bed. If that's not love, what is? But he persists. But do you love me? Do you love me in the silence of holding hands? Do you love me in words that you can say? Do you love me in a tear? Whenever a tear falls on a person's cheek, it's a sign that God is in a person's heart. Jesus himself wasn't beyond tears. He would weep at the tomb of Lazarus, his friend, and bring him back from the dead. Do you see, brothers and sisters, the scriptures this weekend remind us that the nuts and bolts of hospitality, the recipes, the dishes, the food, the drink, the hors d'oeuvres, the desserts, the china, the tablecloth, the linens, they're all a backdrop. They're secondary. They're secondary to the main course, which is that we should look to see Christ in one another and hope to reveal Christ living in us to one another. In the experience of human friendship and human love, honest disagreement, sincere debate, curious and kind questioning, in the business of deep affection, in the business perhaps that mystifies us why another human being stirs our souls so much, except that we can see God in him or her. And we're being nourished by the presence of the divine as we make our way home to him. We Norbertines use the rule of St. Augustine to map out our life. He quotes from Acts 4 that the community of believers was one in mind and heart, that we should be one in mind and heart on our way home to God. It's this sacred communion that allowed for an old couple without children to conceive and bear a child in the context of their hospitality to those three visitors. It's this sacred communion, Mary at the feet of Jesus, that she would not abandon. It's the sacred communion. I'm so thankful that you're at my table. I'm so thankful to be at your table. That reveals the mystery for Jews and Gentiles, the mystery of Christ in us. And for those of us who will come to the table of the Eucharist this weekend as a part of our worship, our great Thanksgiving, may we see in bread and wine, may we hear in these powerful scriptures, and may we recognize and reflect to each other the mystery of the Word made flesh, Jesus Christ, humble servant, crucified and buried, risen from the dead and ascended into heaven, and yet with us until the end of time as he promised. The form is simple food and drink, bread and wine. The form is that we love the Jesus we encounter in one another, especially in the Eucharist, in the great Thanksgiving of the Church. God bless you, brothers and sisters.